to Dear Baddies, boyfriend, bitches, dating, and everything in between with Nicole. And today we have a special guest called Charlotte. And she's welcome to the Peasant Party.
That's me, a giant party of peasants.
So, Charlotte, we have so many questions about you. Okay, so if you guys haven't checked her out, you guys have to check her out on TikTok, Instagram. She is amazing. But I'm so curious about how did you get into like all the graphics, because believe me, the PowerPoints that you have, they're amazing, but they're time consuming.
They take a little bit of time to make for sure. How it all started, probably 3-4 months ago, a close friend of mine, we got in this, I think it was an argument over the brunch table of what the, talking, quote unquote, talking stage is. I'm a firm believer that once you've been on a date and you're continuing to go on dates, you're dating, and I don't think that means boyfriend, girlfriend. Some people call that talking they think dating is a synonym for boyfriend and girlfriend, and they're averse to using the term dating like my friend was. And I drew up a graph, and I did that one in a notebook, and I basically, just like a normal sane person would, instead of just saying agree to disagree, I made a video of it, put it on TikTok, and said, hey, I've declared war against the term talking stage. If you've gone on a date, you're dating, and I'll die on that hill, and it doesn't mean boyfriend, girlfriend. And it got a huge, a very big following, a lot of likes on that video. And I realized, I thought oh my gosh, maybe I have a niche here. So I'd been on TikTok for a while, more lurking. I'm in digital marketing, so it's the platform where, it's the last platform where you can really go viral, and I've been having a lot of fun with it, just from a more lurking content standpoint. And I thought maybe I've got a niche here. I also always had just fascination with different types of dating content. I always had some form of interest in it, but I never liked how it was just which gender has it harder, which gender is worse, that you see so much in dating content, as well as just arbitrary rules kind of thing. I think a lot is somewhere in the middle, which is kind of what that talking stage timeline, or what all those scales and spectrums show, is a lot of us are just somewhere in the middle. And yeah, that's kind of how things started. And I had that niche. Also thought it was a really fun way to talk about dating without necessarily talking about my personal life. I think one thing I was averse to was just I don't want to talk about, my own personal dating life on TikTok. You hear the stories the West Elm, Caleb, type stories up in New York. And it was I don't want to be that person. Also, my dating life isn't that exciting. I believe a good dating life is boring on paper, in a way. So it was kind of a fun niche. And I think it just, it was positive. It's, gender neutral, shows that everyone's kind of somewhere in the middle, and kind of goes away from that arbitrary rules, and says oh, hey, here's kind of all these different ways you can use it. Especially just there's so much buzzwords in dating right now. Everyone's got a different definition of the term casual, for example. Some people it's a one night stand. Some people it's you do everything but call yourselves boyfriend, girlfriend. So, that was kind of another thing, where some people get tripped up on buzzwords. And then just living in Austin, major city. So you just see so many people, the dating experiences, is so just different for everyone. Everyone's looking for something different. And, people joke about the guys are Peter Pans and stuff, or just how many people there are here. Everyone's a transplant, feels kind of disposable. So, I think all of that kind of combined, created a little bit of a fun niche. The username Welcome to the Peasant Party, I think it's too late for me to change it. It was just something fun. I called my account. I had an ex-boyfriend who referred to, me liking to get a good deal as, being a peasant, quote unquote, ironically. And then that's kind of been my username ever since. So having a peasant party with all these charts, diagrams, and other things.
Be here we go. Exactly. I mean, it is so interesting, because the one, you have, I've been looking at your content for a while, and so the one that got me was the cuffing season. I really like that one. I really like the one night stand one. I like the one, oh my gosh, there was one about this, I think I saw the situationship and all that.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm because when do we actually get into a relationship? That's the thing. Nobody wants to be oh no, I need space. Or, what does it really
I know for us, Cindy and I think we typically stick to the 90-day. Obviously it's very loose. It's not set in stone at any point, but do you also abide by that same kind of like 90-day rule, I guess?
I think I've always been more like intentional from the start, just at least as I've been older, where it's just like, I make it known that I'm looking for a relationship and this is an audition to be my boyfriend versus like, oh, we're just seeing where this goes. I'm a big fan of, I think like 6 weeks to 2 months you kind of know. And I say that just as like an average person who works 9 to 5, who's usually dated other people who work 9 to 5, like maybe a handful of trips in between. I always think you kind of know by then. And then it's, kind of having almost like little checkpoints in between. I've always thought it was fun. It was like a little thing you can do where you just almost like count the dates. It's like, oh, hey, we're on date 5, where it shows like I'm counting, this is going somewhere. And also, and I posted like a video on this today where it's, if someone's showing the signs of, looking for something more casual and you want a relationship, being unattracted to that versus like, oh yeah, like what's going on with you? Like, why are you unavailable? So, weeding out those people quickly. And then just kind of the belief too, like, to gain people, you have to be willing to lose people. So those thoughts of like, am I going to scare them away because I'm too much? No, so what if you do? I don't know. Like, I think most people are normal, sane people, and like the things they think will scare people off are just more of things like, oh, the person wasn't on the same page.
I believe that sometimes it's better just to scare those away, because that's going to help you not have like go through heartbreaks or headaches, or like, okay, so what are the red flags, or did I miss out on that, or what, did I really like that, or no, not really, or like, what, I got saved, completely saved.
Agreed.
Oh yeah, there's a lot. There's a ton of red flags. We could do a whole episode on just red flags, but so I wanted to actually bring up with you guys, I heard something earlier today. So obviously we have green flags, things that we accept in a relationship, but then we have red flags, which obviously everyone knows, like, stay the fuck away. But I heard something new today called beige flags. Have you heard that before?
Yeah, I've heard that term. It was a TikTok term.
Yeah, so I've got a little blip here. It says, according to TikTok, there's now another color of flag to look out for, which is beige. Beige flags are a sign on dating app profiles that the person behind the profile is probably fucking boring. It says indications that people might be boring are not new, but we now have a catchy name for them. So Charlotte, like, would you agree with, do you think beige flags is a thing? Is it going to catch on, do you think?
I don't know. I think the second we start keeping score and the second you start finding yourself keeping score is probably a sign you don't like this person. You're looking to check some boxes.
Yeah.
I think we've got a lot of flags already. And I think, I could see it catching on just because every buzzword catches on. Everyone's looking for to coin the new buzzword. But I think, usually when it's like, instead of thinking beige flag, it was just kind of like, I wasn't excited.
Yeah.
But they look good on paper. I think my thought there.
That happens more often than we want it to.
True.
So I know for me and Cindy, like, both of us when we're dating, we normally will get on the phone and talk to them for a while, or we'll do a FaceTime before we actually take the time out of our day to actually go do that. But is that something that you do also, or would you be a proponent of?
So I think it really depends, because I think, it depends where you live, what your situation is, and the type of people you're seeing. I was always one that was for a short, like, and I joke of like the talking stage where it's, before an actual date's taking place, just being like in Austin where a lot of people you're close to bars, restaurants at any given time. And if you're dating someone that's kind of in the same situation, I was always one for like a very short talking stage, like almost like the same week, like start matching, talking to people on apps on Sunday and have a date set up by Thursday. Cause I think a lot can happen in a weekend. Like I think you can lose interest, momentum, excitement, but it also just depends on your situation. Like I'm thinking of, people that are, living in a big city surrounded by bars, restaurants, like don't have any children, live in the center of the city looking to date other people in the middle of the city. I think your situation could be so much different if you lived in a more rural area where that, like, that first date, that trek to a first date, you want to make sure like there's no loss there. Or, maybe you have to get a babysitter. Like I could see that kind of talking phase going longer. Maybe you travel a lot. I think it really just depends on the person. But yeah, I think like two like local people who live in like city center is going to look a lot different from, someone that might have to make more of an investment in a first date.
Yeah, that makes sense. Do you have any red flags that maybe are not like the normal that you kind of look out for when you're dating?
I'm trying to think. I think, oh goodness. I guess it'll take me back next. I don't like motorcycles. I don't want to ride a motorcycle. I mean, like, I can respect it as an interest. But that is always one where it's like, I don't want to ride on the back of a motorcycle again. So it's also something I have to explain to my mom. So it's one of those where if I would see like a motorcycle on a dating app picture, I'm like, okay, cool. Like if this goes anywhere, I'm going to have a conversation about how I feel about motorcycles. Yeah, I've had some exes who really like the motorcycles. So I think that, and then kind of, I think maybe some that piggybacks off of that is just, too risky of behavior. And you see that quickly. Maybe it's because Austin's like a big drinking city, but just, like a fun drinker and then unsafe drinker. And you pick up on that pretty quickly. Yeah, so that's always something I always look out for.
Yeah. Cindy, I can see you. I know that you're super adventurous, so I wonder I
was like, red flag, oh darn it.
Oh.
Because I know the Dear Baddies Instagram, I have my own Instagram, but it's just like, it's private. Mm-hmm. And I have another one that is like for my real estate. But if you look at my Facebook, I know you're not on Facebook, that's fine. But, I fly planes, I jump out of planes, I do, zip lining, I'm very, very adventurous. I'm very high driven. Like I have extremely high energy, and it's just like, I mean, it's not, it's kind
of, you can have the motor. If I need a nice motorcycle, I'll send him your way. I think it's one of those preferences things for me where it's like, for some people it's adrenaline. For me, it's like, I don't want to die. But that's just a me thing. Yeah, maybe I've just had too many, maybe it was a specific type of guy I was dating who had a motorcycle who shouldn't have had one, but yeah.
I'm the same way.
I get it.
Like there's a lot of, I guess if you think about it, like there's a lot of risk involved with riding a motorcycle. So I had a boyfriend, I think I was 19, and he raced for a company professionally and ended up in a coma because of a motorcycle. So like, I think everyone's reason for it is different. Mine is because I don't want to deal with having to visit the hospital every day for a few months. But it does come with a lot of risk, But Cindy, if that's something that you're interested in.
So I never talk about like my first boyfriend. My first boyfriend, it's funny because he wanted a motorcycle. My grandfather's like, no. This is like when I was like, my first boyfriend was like when I was 19 years old. And, well, that was a long time. And my grandfather's like, no, you shouldn't get a motorcycle. He's like, okay. So my grandfather, he bought the motorcycle. He saved all his money. He bought the motorcycle and my grandfather drove it to his house. Once he was in his house, he drove the motorcycle and he had an accident. So yeah, but he still rides motorcycles nowadays.
To each their own. If that's something that you enjoy, go for it. But Charlotte, I understand what you mean about, the risk involved for sure. Cause that does, it kind of, if you think about it, it does kind of relay into different areas of your life. Especially like, I don't know how old you are, but, like for me, like I'm 35, like I want someone that's like, maybe a little bit of a planner. So, but so just kind of switching gears. So I know you talked a lot about like one of your TikToks is about a situationship. So when, in your opinion, if you're dating someone, you like them, when is it all right to have that like exclusive kind of conversation?
I think, and I think you also first look at it as like how do you feel? Because so many people, it's like, do they like me? Do they like me? And you should really think more, do I like him? Mm-hmm. And I think using the I terms of just, hey, like, and I usually, like I said, if it's, two people who have, been local, doing things pretty consistently for, 6 weeks or so, that's usually my timeline. Because you also think of like, have I learned all the information I've wanted to learn that would make this person, I would want to make this person my significant other. So it's something you have to think about too. If you feel like you figured that out, maybe you figure it out pretty quickly. But just the conversation more of, hey, like, I'm at the point where like I've learned, I know what I need to know that, I feel something here. I would like this to be a relationship. Like, are you with me or not? Versus, what are we? If you say, what are we? People are just going, I don't know. I'm having fun. Like, good, like just try to kick the tires down the road. And it also, it reveals how you feel. I also firmly believe, like, I think every guy's fear is being called someone's boyfriend when they aren't expecting it. So the second they know, like, oh, this person wants to call me their boyfriend, it lights a fire under their ass. Like, maybe they'll say, like, oh, like, I need some time to think on that. But it inspires a shit or get off the pot, basically. So I think it really depends. I think, think of yourself and what the information you want to know and what you want to do in that kind of window of time. I think once you've hit 3 months, you've almost like gone too far, depending on, what the situation is. Like, if, you're big travelers, like some stuff's come up, that happens. But things like, what information do you want to know before you would make this person your significant other? And if they're averse to doing those things that you want, then, they're probably not that right person. But things like, breaking from the mold of like first date, second date, third date, and going to, hey, like my friend's having a birthday party. Do you want to come with me? Or like, I need a +1 at this thing. Will you come with me? And those kind of areas where you're able to meet their friends. If you have like kind of that personal list of things that you want to know about a person and how they handle themselves in certain situations, when you figure that out, I think it's appropriate to have that conversation. And then those like little check-ins in between, I think kind of escalating the types of dates. I always think like being in those silos, especially it happens a lot with dating apps when there's like no other additional ties to that person, where it's like, yeah, first date, second date, third date, sex, it's all in a silo. Breaking free from that mold, like, oh, hey, come meet my friends, or, oh, like, can I meet your friends? Like those types of things to really get a feel for if that's the right person for you. But I think, also just making it known from the start, like, this is an audition for a boyfriend. This isn't, we're just going to kick things off and have fun. If that's what you're looking for, that's a totally different story. But if you're going into things like looking for a relationship, I think make it known. And if you lose that person along the way, cool. Less time.
It wasn't meant to be.
Mm-hmm. Well, one thing that we've been asking everybody that comes on the show is, obviously we're all privy to dating apps. So what are your top 3?
Apps? I'm on none. So I always liked Hinge for a while. I think maybe it was just because of Austin. I think I used Bumble for like a day, and there's too many tourists. It was all bachelor parties looking for girls to invite back. Like Tinder was just a zoo too. I guess from like my experience standpoint, I remember when Tinder came out when I was in college, I used that, and it was really just, people that you saw around you. You could see all your Facebook friends on it. It was almost like the people that you could see from across the hall that you didn't really have an excuse to talk to. You could finally talk to them. I think I met like a pretty short-term boyfriend, like at the end of college on Tinder. And then, out of college, I think it was Tinder, and then Bumble came out where it was the, girls message first. I liked that more. And then when I was, so I'm 29 now. And this was in Santa Barbara, which is where I moved to after I graduated college. Was on Bumble for a little bit, and then was in a long-term relationship from the ages of like 23 to 25, until I moved to Austin, jumped into another relationship very quickly. Both of those were coworkers, same company. Probably not the smartest thing to do, but I was younger. And then, hadn't used apps in between. And then when I got out of that relationship, it was kind of like, what do I do here? It was, got on Bumble, realized it was all bachelor parties, ditched it, and then tried Hinge for the first time, basically. So that was what I was on for a while. And then I got off of it just because it was, I didn't like the way people talked to me on it. It wasn't something I felt like I needed. But I've probably been off of it for, like 6 months or so, probably. I've seen other people's like Hinge stuff. I see it like on TikTok as far as like the features that have been added. Like I know now you can put like what you're looking for on it. I know you can do like the voice prompts. But yeah.
And as Cindy just joined this one new dating app that I have not been on this one, but it's called The League.
So I got banned from that one somehow.
You got banned? How did you get banned? Oh, because we're
I think that one is very, it's very like, I don't want to say it's like very pay to play, but I think they're very swift with the ban hammer. So, this was actually between, the 2 boyfriends that I worked with. I think there was probably a 1 month lag, and I went to lunch with a friend. So, you gotta download The League. It's new. So I downloaded it, and forgot about it. Because when we don't turn the notifications on, there's so many of them. So I forgot about it, got into a new relationship. And then I don't know if I ever deleted the account or anything like that, but I forgot about it. Like, I don't think I even really used it. And then got out of that relationship and then was trying to download apps again and then went onto the league. It's like, you're banned for being flaky. You can join back up if you want to pay like $12 a month for this. Wow. And it was like, I don't.
12 months. This is, the league is $400 a month. So
you pay for that one. Yeah. Like, do you have to? Do you have a choice or no?
I mean, you don't have it. I mean, you can pay if you wanted to, but I mean, let's say for instance, what I showed you yesterday, it's like, what I like about it is like, are you open to a prenup or not? Because I paid for the subscription, and it's just like, I'm like, I actually like this because it's actually reminding me of a matchmaker, but it's just like the same guy. I feel like there's more quality of men there.
Are there more professionals as compared to like Tinder that, they're bartenders, and I mean, not to knock a bartender at all, but.
So it would be most likely like, quality men, professional men. There's a guy that I've actually matched with him like probably like 10 times. Mm-hmm. But we're Instagram friends. Mm-hmm. And he's a Delta pilot. But it's like, I keep on seeing, but it's just like doctors, lawyers, pilots. You don't see the same thing over and over, but some women have said that they're the same guys. And yes, some of them are because they're professionals. But now I'm trying to meet more people organically versus in app-wise or app world.
Mm-hmm. So Charlotte, are you, and I mean, there is no right answer to this, but like, are you looking for a relationship? Or
yeah, no, I absolutely. I've got some sort of thing going that's a little bit too early to call it anything.
Of course.
But yeah, absolutely. And I think I probably would say that I have, I could confidently say I was like looking for a relationship probably like the last like year or two. I don't think I haven't had any like situationshipy hookups. Like I've had some, 1-2 monthers that never took off, for one reason or another. But nothing. I mean, I think aside from some of the experiences I shared on the podcast with Owen, where it was just the dudes with crazy histories, nothing I think was bad per se. Just more of like, it wasn't the match, like not compatible long term. And yeah, like I think I'm always upfront about that. I think there's definitely, I'll go on first dates that don't materialize because of that. Because maybe someone's like, I was hoping this was going to be more like quote unquote fun, versus like, she wants something more serious. But like I've said, to gain people, you have to be willing to lose people.
It feels like, and Cindy, I think you'd agree with this too, but every single podcast that we've had, every person that we've talked to, the bottom line is communication. You got to set expectations. You've got to tell them exactly what you are looking for and what you don't want, and, things that you find are red flag. But I mean, every single thing that we've talked about, every episode, bottom line is communication.
No, I totally agree with that completely, because it's just like, and I think you've told me this, Nicole, because I send Nicole my conversations at times, especially when I'm like,
I love to analyze it and help you. It's so much like, easier giving advice when you're not the one in it,
So for me, it's just like, I feel like sometimes I come too aggressive, but I'm also like that alpha female take over, like, don't worry, I'll handle it, and it's just like, well, I mean, if this is not what you want, then you know what? See ya. Peace out. But my thing is, I have to be blunt. I have to be upfront, because I'm not going to waste my time. My time is precious.
Yeah. Recently, please do not be upset with me for saying this, but the most recent one that you sent me, I noticed that he shut down the conversation when you got a little too aggressive. Remember, I don't know, I'm sure you remember, but where you said, desperate or desperation. I think that's when it kind of like, and this is just me just reading from a third party perspective, but I think that's kind of when he was just like, I think I'm okay.
Yeah, and I'm like, you know what? The right person is going to stick around. I don't have to be like, And I bet Charlotte agrees with me too, because even though, no matter how, if a person's really interested in you, they're going to be interested in you regardless of, if you're scary, you're not, I mean, you're blunt, or you try to scare them away, they're going to stick around because they really are interested in you.
Yeah,
exactly. Yeah, I think, it's also just like a compatibility thing. Like some people, like a woman who's loud, maybe it's either, it keeps up the energy they have, or it balances them out if they're more of an introvert. Some people like more of an introvert. And I think it's a compatibility thing. I think being the best version of yourself is the best way to go about your life, and everything else follows from there. It's hard enough to be the best version of anything. Might as well just be yourself. And always just continue to be striving for better. Like, I don't think there's the more you try to be like the all-American, every man that everyone should like, you're going to lose the right people along the way. I think that's why in dating apps, it's like everyone could just write like, I love dogs in the office, and you'll get a million matches, but are those matches going to be the right people for you? Like, I think women, we're always like bombarded by just, this excessive quantity, but what about quality? So it's like sometimes those statements that make you lose people or could be someone else's deal breakers, that it's good to make those. Like, for example, I've got it right here. I got a cat. People are allergic to cats. I always make it when I have a cat. And that maybe would make people swipe left on me because they've got allergies. They don't like cats. I would rather lose them right away. But,
same. I have a cat, and I can't deal with people that don't like cats.
No.
Sorry, I'm allergic to cats, but I'll put up with it. I'll take a Benadryl.
I know my mom is allergic, and she's got 4. So I'm like, Jesus Christ, like, you've probably got to be like on a shit ton of Claritin. So we asked Owen the same question, but I'm curious to know your answer from a female perspective. But would you ever date long distance?
Yeah, absolutely. I think there's got to be like a goal in mind, or just some sort of system in place as far as, when do you both see each other? Like, what's the goal here? I think just kind of aimlessly long distance is how people kind of get in trouble. I think that's also where you get, and I've talked about this in my other videos, where it's like boyfriend-girlfriend experience, where it's like you got a boyfriend or girlfriend for a weekend, and then they go back to their life, and you don't have that communication in between. And that's more of a casual situation than it is like a long distance relationship. I think you have to have a goal in mind, as a whole, like, how does this end? When does this end? Like, what's the plan here? But it can work. I mean, people do them all the time, but you've got to have like the right communication and the right plan in place.
I usually, I've been in long distance relationships, and I honestly and Nicole's like, you gotta get someone in, like, local. But, like, I went to Melbourne, like, was it 2 or 3 weeks ago? I met this guy and I really liked him, but I mean, he didn't want to be in a long distance relationship. I'm like, okay. I mean, it's a flight away, but that's okay. I mean, it's like an hour and 30 minutes, but that's fine. So now I'm talking to someone in San Diego, and I'm like, we're like, okay, let's see. I mean, I'm just like, look, and I've been blunt with him. Like, you know what? If it works, it works. If it doesn't, it doesn't. It doesn't matter to me. You're over there. I'm over here. I have to work. You have the same thing too. And I don't want no more kids, honestly.
I mean, dating, in my opinion, it's all trial and error. Every person that you date is going to teach you something, good or bad. So the next person that you interact with or attempt to date is going to, hopefully you'll be able to surpass those red flags. I'm curious. Go ahead.
So I don't know. Did Nicole tell you on how the podcast was born?
I kind of got the rough story. Is there the story of how it all materialized? I would love to hear it.
So basically, there was this guy I had been talking for almost 5 months. He's like, hey, you know what? Well, we're exclusive and all. And one day I'm like, Nicole, I've been wanting to post this, but I don't know if I should. And I found out he had a girlfriend in South Atlanta, and I'm in North Atlanta, and I'm like, no freaking way. And I was like, you know what? I'm just going to go ahead. I don't want this to happen to the same people again, over again. I want to help other people because of this, because so many people go through the same thing, and it's just like, you know what? Let's just do a podcast.
Yeah. No, yeah. Oh my gosh. I have yet to come across like that experience. Like I always do like the back check to like make sure that this person is single. And I have yet to come across an experience where someone who had another like at least a committed relationship from what I could tell that was, publicly out there. I'm sure there's been plenty of people that are, maybe there's something I didn't know about, or, they had a pseudo, like an almost on the way there type relationship, but damn, like that's like one of my fears, is just that feeling of just like, you feel so like, I don't know, you feel so like, I don't know, like worst feeling when that kind of thing happens.
Yeah. I was like, wow. But I mean, he has 2 Facebook accounts, and
that's bold.
Yeah. And I was like, wow, I mean, is this guy an idiot? Oh, and he also listens to the podcast too.
Yeah. So if you're listening, Macon Bacon, we're talking about you. We get a little nickname. But you know what? That happens so much more often than it should. Like the entire reason I told you earlier about how Cindy and I met and the Facebook group that I run, that was started because I was dating one guy, not realizing that he was dating 3 other girls at the same time. So when I broke up with him, I found, the other 3 girls just honestly by chance, connected with them, and we're like, all right, we got to put this guy on blast. We have to expose him. And his dating life in Atlanta is almost non-existent.
Oh my God. It's like that John Tucker Must Die movie.
Exactly.
Great. One of my favorite movies in high school.
Yeah, I love that movie. So, I mean, we initially were like, we were so pissed off. We don't want to hurt him, so physically or anything like that, but we just wanted him to just feel the way that we felt. I don't know if he ever will, because narcissism runs very deep. But yeah, it hurt a lot. So.
Oh, I can imagine.
I would never want anyone to go through the same pain, which, that's part of the reason why we have this podcast, is because we want to appeal to men and women both, because we're both going through the same shit. And, I guess if we can help one person at the end of the day, we've done our job.
Definitely. No, I could totally agree with that. That's so unfortunate. Oh, I would hate for that to happen.
Yeah.
I mean, and especially like with your charts and all that. I mean, I love the content because it makes sense. I mean, it's just like, wow, you know what can I do, or how can okay, so let's look at what are the flags that you're not seeing, or what are the things that you're not seeing that they're there, but you're like, hey, look at it. And you're like, no way. Is it or no?
Exactly. No, and I think that's kind of part of it, where it's like, hey, like, there's this other thing you could look at. I also I'm really big on owning your own feelings and, owning how you feel, because so many people, I feel like how so many women date, is just, they go off the base of just like, does he like me? It seems like he likes me. Does he like me? What does he think of this situation versus, do I even like him? So many women, it's like, you'll go on the date, and if they didn't absolutely hate it, if the guy says like, hey, let's do another date, it's like, oh, like, bird in the hand, 2 in the bush. I got one. Like, let's keep going on this date. And then you go down the road, and the guy eventually just goes, like, I didn't even like him that much. And I think a big thing is just owning your feelings and knowing how you feel. And that's like a big theme I have with everything I put together, is just, like, forget how they feel. Like, how do you feel? And, what are those feelings, and does that person know your feelings? And, communicating that versus saying like, what are we, or where are we going? Where is this going? Calling it nuts, like using I statements. That's a big thing for me. So that's really just the general overall theme.
There was a slide that you use is, what are we doing this weekend? Or where are we going? Versus, oh, I am doing this. No, you are doing that. So when are we starting to use that are we serious? Or
I think that's the sign. I always say that's what it's serious, because it's like, what constitutes a serious relationship? Because some people will say like, I'm not looking for anything serious, but it's like, is a committed relationship automatically a serious relationship? You have that conversation of, are we boyfriend, girlfriend? Is this a relationship? Do you automatically call yourself a serious relationship? And the thing that made the most sense is when I becomes we. Because I always say, like, as you're dating, I terms, like, less of this us, you're not a we. But I think that's when you really know you're in a serious relationship is, the weekend's coming up, what are we doing this weekend? Are we going to that barbecue versus what are you doing this weekend? I have this thing, I would like you to join me. And I think that's where it's, the dynamic when it goes from I to we is, where you kind of go from that either committed relationship to serious, or you kind of, when it's, a more serious situation.
I'm curious to know, throughout your time of being on TikTok, what's the biggest, I guess, takeaway that you've learned for your own dating life?
Oh my goodness. I've thought it's been really kind of fascinating to see like I guess quote unquote, I hate thinking of them as sides, but just the other side and just what's kind of going on with like the male mindset. Cause sometimes it's things that I wouldn't have even thought about, and just the issues that maybe men might be going through, the insecurities there, why they might do certain things, just the thought of, I think women don't necessarily know like how few matches men get. Like we're, we so many each day, and then it's like, oh, well, like that, no wonder that guy's getting so upset that you didn't respond to that message, or like thinks this match is such a big deal, like that kind of thing. Is learning that information has been helpful.
That's really interesting because, we never talk about the men's insecurities. It's always like, oh, he just ghosted me, or he doesn't reply, or why is he always being like this? Why is he being so communicative? So I've never thought about like a man's insecurity. How can we actually point out those insecurities? Or is it because I'm not so sure, because that's something new for me.
I don't think that we are entitled to point out any insecurities for them. I think it's definitely something that they have to figure out on their own. But I think for us to be aware enough to recognize what their insecurities are, maybe, and again, this all comes back to communication, so for example, like my boyfriend, I'm sure he's got some sort of insecurities at some point or another, but we talk about everything. Obviously no relationship is perfect, but I think the fact that we're able to communicate, and this goes for anybody, if you have a conversation, you should be able to work through those issues. I don't think it's our place to really point those out, though.
My thing is I understand the communication and all that, but okay, men, for the ones that are listening to this, and women, stop playing fucking games. Tell them what you really want, because even though if you think it's going to scare them, it's going to be fine, because you know what? There's going to be something better for you out there. And there's plenty of men and women in the sea. That person was not right for you. And if you're scared, then you're in the wrong relationship. If you're scared of saying something, then where's that going to go? Because down the line, the heartache is going to be much more bad or terrible.
More than likely. It is, yeah. I think it's hard for people though I know for myself it's a maturity thing. When I was married pretty much all throughout my 20s. We got married when I was 22. So it was hard for me to really voice how I felt about certain things because I hadn't developed those skills and I hadn't really matured. I think it took a lot of heartache and bullshit really for me to go through to really, be able to process those things and voice how I feel. And I'm at the age now and the point in my maturity level now where I'm like, you can fuck right off. You know what I mean? So I don't know, Charlotte, what's your take on that?
Yeah, I think, just the communication, I think also, I think a lot of us, I think a big issue that we just continue to see is I think most people are good people who want to do the right thing and think they're doing the right thing. They're just acting in their own best interest, and that doesn't always align with, what you might want. I always and I've talked about it on TikTok, where I think the idea of a true fuckboy where they're actually trying to manipulate you. I think that's more rare than people think it is. I think, most guys, it's they, think maybe go into things thinking they want a relationship and change their mind after the fact. Or, they assume that you're okay with whatever's going on, because you haven't said otherwise. And it's easy to just assume the other person wants the same thing you want because they're doing it with you and they seem to be having fun. And I think it happens on the female side as well. I think, owning your feelings and what they are and knowing what they are, owning them and communicating them. I think so many people are afraid to say the phrase relationship in fear of scaring people off. I think other people are, afraid to say, find a nice way to say I'm only looking for something casual in fear of scaring somebody off. So I think it's owning what you want. I also think getting away from buzzwords too. Like I said about the term casual, that can mean something different to everybody. So knowing what you want, finding a way to communicate it in a way that's positive. I think there's a positive way to want a casual situation. There's nothing wrong with that as long as, you're not lying to someone to get there and you're consenting to it. I think, ultimately owning what you want, communicating it, asking it, and walking away if the other person's not on the same page. It's going to go there.
I would have to agree with that.
I completely agree too with that, just because, I mean, okay, what do you really want? I mean, from the beginning, and just be clear on what you want, because that way you will not waste your time.
Exactly.
How often, I know Cindy and I on previous podcasts, we've talked a lot about, and there's a video that Cindy actually posted on TikTok about, do men want to be approached, like in public? You know, do you want us to come up to you and just say, hi, how are you? Are you seeing someone? Do you want to go out? You know, something along those lines. Do you do that? Or are you like me, or you have that fear of rejection and you just kind of leave it alone?
So I think it's a mix. So I think, there's obviously things that are situational. I think, if you see a guy in the bar, no wedding ring, leaning against the bar, I think there's also soft ways to approach people. Like if you go up to someone at the bar, you say, hey, what are you drinking? And they just look at you and go like gin and tonic and turn back to their friends. It's a soft rejection. If they, if they're interested, they're going to take the bait. Like if gin and tonic, hey, what is that, an espresso martini? All of a sudden you've got a conversation going. I think those like bar social settings, it's always appropriate. I mean, obviously look out for girlfriends, wedding rings, take no for an answer. I think it's totally fine. I think, I also think I think most women should try it once just because of, how men will approach women, and just know what it feels like to approach someone and be rejected. I think it's for everyone to be able to do that and have that experience. I do think though, I think, men aren't used to it where they might be caught off guard. So, what might feel like, confusion, they might be confused. I also think, another thing that can come with the male mindset too is, making sure you ask for what you want. Cause I think there's a lot of guys where, they'll say they're just excited to have a woman who's interested in them just after all this time of just go ask her out. I feel like guys don't always like to reject people. They like to have options, hanging out in the woodwork. So the idea of this girl is interested in me. They might say I don't want to say take advantage is the wrong word. I don't think it's malicious, but more of she's clearly interested in me. I can kind of steer the ship of I could keep this casual. So I think if you're approaching a guy as a woman, making sure you're steering things in the direction of a date, if that's what you want, versus hey, you're cute. And they go, oh, cool. Let's go meet up late night at midnight. So making sure you own what you want, versus them thinking okay, cool. I've got the upper hand here. So just keeping that in mind as well.
Yeah. That makes total sense.
It does, just because, so I can't remember who I was talking to, but I know that video on TikTok that I made, actually, I think it's hit almost 10,000 and over 1,200 comments from men that they do want to be approached. And sometimes we got to take our prideness and ego and put it on our side and say, you know what, do you want to go out with me? Or, hey, how are you doing? So I'm going to try that tomorrow at the Delta Lounge, so we'll see.
I think that's a great idea.
Fun place for it.
Can you please record it so I can see what you're doing? I would love to see that. People. No, I agree with you. I think the Delta Lounge, why the hell not?
They'll have good jobs. Yeah. So I had a few months ago. So I travel a lot. And I saw this guy and he's so freaking cute, but I was with my kids and I was here and he was over there and we were both looking at each other and I'm let me I wish, I would have gotten his number or, he didn't have a ring, but he was some sort of coach. I can't remember what university was he for, but yeah.
Did you try looking him up on Instagram or anything after the fact? Cause I've seen those situations before where someone said I hope this isn't a long shot, but this might be you. I used the geotags or I think I knew someone you were with, shooting my shot. I think I saw you out. Have you ever tried doing that?
The geotags. Talk to me more.
Or when you click on, I think some ways people will find someone on Instagram versus a dating app is they'll find their favorite bar location and look at, people.
Delta Lounge? I can't remember when that was. There was not this trip. It was not before. Oh, I think I was by myself.
Or if you knew where he was a coach or something, looking in the tagged photos of like the coaches at that company's Instagram. I've seen people do that where it's like, oh, like I've kind of like misconnection style. They go looking for clues. Like I just go on this Instagram, like, oh, I knew this person they were with. Like they're probably in their tagged photos somewhere. I don't know. People say Instagram's like become a new dating app, and they've tried that approach. I've gotten a handful of interesting like Instagram ones where it's like, is this you by chance? One time someone was wrong, one time someone was right. So I thought it was pretty cool. As long as it's like you say who you are and how you got there.
And that's the thing. It's just like, so should I keep my Instagram private or should I go ahead and put it public?
I would keep it private because I feel like the people that you allow into your life should only be privy to what is in your life. I keep all of my shit private. To be honest with you, I don't even use my last name when it comes to podcasting and social media. It's not that I'm paranoid. I want to protect myself and I want to protect my daughter. So like, and that's where it stems for me. But do you want to do research on me? Fine. Go the fuck ahead. Go do research on me. You're not going to find anything. I mean, I'll tell them what they need to know. You know what I mean?
For my job, it doesn't really matter because I mean, look, you Google me and you'll find me anywhere. That's the thing. So it doesn't like, but at least I have that Instagram account that is private. I don't allow everybody in. I mean, you can see my Dear Baddies and you can see my real estate one. Those are the two ones. And then you can see me on all social media platforms. The rest is like fine. Mm-hmm. So I will keep it private because it's
really up to your discretion, you know, especially when you're dating, like what do you want someone else to see, you know, like keep in mind, like I always think about my employer. Like, do I want my employer to see, like, am I going to get in trouble am I going to go to jail? I really don't want to go to jail. So, you know, I don't know.
I might like the handcuffs.
But I also have a girlfriend that she's, you know, early 20s and she posts quite a lot about her life and things that happen within her family. And me being 35, I don't. But I did, you know, in my early 20s, I did, you know, and I regret doing that because now that's out for the entire world to see. So I don't know if that just comes with maturity or what, but I'm always cognizant of what's out there and, you know, especially with having a child, like that's a little scary.
I used to do that too, but Facebook deleted my old account.
Did you go to Facebook jail again?
No, somebody reported me and they deleted my whole account. Like I opened this account back in 2005, 2006 and everything was deleted. I'm like, okay.
I do remember when Facebook was,
hi Facebook.
I remember when Facebook, like when I was in college and I graduated high school in 2005 and it was right when Facebook came out and you had to have like a college email to join. Like, it's funny to me now. It's funny now, like being a millennial there was a TikTok I saw recently they were talking about the Facebook app. I'm like, no, it's not a Facebook app. It's a Facebook.com website. Like it's a website. It's not a fucking app. You know, like it instantly aged myself.
I remember that. Wow. Yeah. That's a long time ago.
Oh my goodness. Yeah. Well, so Charlotte, thank you so much for coming on our podcast. We really, really appreciate it. We love your insight and hopefully maybe we'll have you back again down the road. But to our audience, we have Charlotte. Her TikTok handle is Welcome to the Peasant Party if you'd like to look up her TikTok. So thank you guys so much today for joining Dear Baddies, boyfriends, bitches, dating, and everything in between. We'll see you next time.
Bye.
Bye, everyone.
Thank you.